Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for hosting us. To the members of the council who are here, we could almost have a meeting, I think. Maybe we could get some work done. I'm thrilled to be back again at Union Beach. I'm here with my colleague, Congressman Frank Pallone, who's been a tremendous advocate in the House of Representatives and carrying our efforts there as well, extraordinarily well. I appreciate Dave Ramler, an expert from the Fair Share Housing Center, being with us to talk about the elements of the proposal. Rod Scott from the International Association of Structural Movers, who you're here from. And I also want to recognize some of our advocates in our community-based organizations, Brendan McAvoy and Priscilla Robinson, who are part of New Jersey Organizing Project, and George Casimos from Stop FEMA Now. I saw George a minute ago. Oh, there he is. Okay, all right. Thank you, George, for coming and for your constant advocacy. It was 2014, right here in Union Beach, when I brought the then Housing Secretary Julian Castro to meet Scott McQuarrie, a constituent, a homeowner who at the time was still living in a trailer in the front yard of his unfinished house a full 2 years after Sandy. Like so many New Jerseyans, Scott and his wife were stuck wading through the state's REM program. They suffered underpayments from the National Flood Insurance Program and the constant runaround from FEMA. It was also here in Union Beach where I later stood with Congressman Pallone to demonstrate the absurdity faced by the Drake family, whose flood insurance premiums spiked from $600 to over $30,000 a year due to a loophole in the mapping process. And only after our offices intervened did they get any relief. So it's fitting that we're back here in Union Beach today. I'm glad to be here to talk about what we need to do to fix our broken national flood insurance program. There's no question that the National Flood Insurance Program needs desperately reform. We New Jerseyans learned it the hard way. As I've said many times, Hurricane Sandy was a devastating natural disaster, but the delays, the denials, the disputes families faced during the claims process, that was a man-made disaster. Responsible homeowners paid their premiums for decades, assuming they'd be made whole. Instead, they faced a claim process that was stacked against them from the start, with arbitrary rules, gaping loopholes, chronic underpayments, and zero accountability. It's enough to make your head spin. And to add insult to injury, homeowners were slammed with massive premium hikes after the Biggert-Waters reforms of 2012 took effect. Many of them had never even submitted a claim. That's why I led the Senate to pass the Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act of 2014 and provided families with some temporary relief. But more must be done, and now is the time to do it. We cannot afford to maintain the status quo. That's why after months of bipartisan collaboration, earlier this summer I introduced the Sustainable, Affordable, Fair, and Efficient NFIP Reauthorization Act of 2017, with the support of 4 Republicans and 5 Democrats. Now, that level of bipartisanship is in short supply these days, but I'm proud of my record of working across the aisle to fight for the best interests of New Jersey families. When else does someone see Marco Rubio and Elizabeth Warren on the same bill? So I want to thank Representative Pallone again for leading this effort in the House. Our bill takes the lessons we learned after Sandy and the affordability crisis facing New Jerseyans today, and it turns them into responsible reforms. The reality is that this program cannot survive if homeowners keep leaving it due to rising premiums. That's why our bill puts affordability first. It cuts annual premium increases nearly in half, capping them at 10%. It creates a grant program to protect vulnerable families from losing their homes due to huge rate hikes. It also invests in state-of-the-art mapping technology known as LIDAR, so we can more accurately map what is the flood risk. And it makes unprecedented investments in coastal resilience and mitigation because every dollar we invest in mitigation generates $4 in future savings. It's the smart and fiscally responsible thing to do. We can't wait around for the next storm, nor can we wait for another administration to take action on climate change. So, especially when earlier this week, President Trump rolled back standards that require government-financed projects in flood-prone areas to plan for sea level rise. This threat is real, and New Jerseyans know it, so it's time to take action. Finally, our bill addresses the fraud, the waste, and the abuse New Jerseyans encountered in the aftermath of Sandy. We close ridiculous loopholes. We end unlimited taxpayer funding for insurers to hire flashy attorneys to drag out claim disputes in court. And we bring greater accountability to the claims review process. These are bold reforms with bipartisan support. And yet some in Washington have no interest in actually solving problems. Rather than fix the National Flood Insurance Program, they want to send it into extinction. Just last month, House Republicans passed a dangerous bill out of committee that would be like the Biggert Waters debacle of 2012, but it would be that on steroids. Premiums would skyrocket, surcharges on primary homeowners would rise by 70%. Homeowners would lose access to affordable coverage, and many families would lose their homes. Communities would face sanctions from FEMA if they fail to meet unfunded mandates, and abuse would remain rampant. So we're in a fight. In the House, there's an active effort to sabotage the program. Meanwhile, in the Senate, there are those who propose we can make no significant changes at all. But the American people deserve better than two bad choices. We don't have to choose between rigging the program for failure and preserving a broken status quo. There's a better way, and that's what my colleagues and I are fighting for. A plan to put people over insurance industry profits, to invest in resilience rather than create unfunded mandates, to reform the claims process and turn the hard lessons we've learned into action. A plan that will make our flood insurance program more affordable for homeowners, more sustainable for taxpayers, and more accountable to everyone. The American people deserve nothing less. Flood insurance isn't a political issue. Mother Nature doesn't discriminate. From the Jersey Shore to the mountains of Wyoming to the parishes of Louisiana, floods displace thousands of families each and every year. So we have to work together. We may not be able to control when disasters come our way, but we have a responsibility to learn from our past mistakes. And in doing so, we can create a better future. With that, let me introduce someone who is fighting with me to make this happen, Congressman Frank Pallone.